Hello everybody, welcome to my first video on my YouTube channel, where today I will be talking about the first and second episode of Big Brother 27. Let's go. First eight. In the first group, we get Adrian, we get Keanu, Amy, Kelly, Lauren, Ashley, Riley, and Zach. Now these eight, they all get their intro packages and everything. And the first four to enter are Amy, Kelly, Zach, and Adrian. Um, Now, this will obviously come into play later. I'm not going to tell the other moving groups because obviously this is only going to come into play later in episode 2, but you just need to know that that is the first moving group. But the first 8 move in, everyone seems cool and stuff. And then we get the second 8, which is uh, a group of, we have Jimmy, Vince, Mickey, Kat, Zay, Ava, Morgan, and Will. And they also get all their intro packages and everything. We then move on to the big reveal for episode 1, where eventually, after 10 minutes, this timer is going down during the entire time they're moving into the house, and then the lights go out, and we see Julie disappear, the HOH relic disappears, and everyone on screen in the house gets to see just a shoe and missing host signs all around the Big Brother studio, setting up kind of the story we're going to follow throughout the episode. They end up having to split into 2 groups and compete in 2 different competitions. One competition to save Julie, and the other competition to save the HOH relic, where the winners of those competitions would get game-changing powers. In the first competition, it's a puzzle competition where you have to complete a puzzle bridge and then listen into the different grades in order to see who is or to see which room Julie is in. Then you can grab a key card and put it in that room to see if you're correct. If you get it wrong, you're out of the competition and can't compete anymore. Adrian finishes his puzzle first and looks poised to win it. Amy also finishes her puzzle, but Adrian spends too much time on the bottom. Zach sees that he hasn't seen Adrian, figure it out, so he runs upstairs and figures out which room Julie's in, and he wins the competition, being the first comp winner of the season. We then see the other group go, and they have to find the HOH relic. Then they have to, there will be clues around the room, and then they have to go up the stairs, put it in a certain spot, and if they're correct, then then they will win the competition. But if they're wrong, they'll fall to their demise through this little contraption. And most people do pretty bad at this competition. The only 2 people to be in it towards the end are Ashley and Jimmy. Then Jimmy gets one final clue and wins the competition, uh, setting up obviously the first 2 comp wins. So then Zach and Jimmy are enjoying their wins, and Julie comes back and tells them their prizes, with Zach winning 10K, which eventually we find out in episode 2 that he can use the 10K to win his safety. And then Jimmy gets to pick which 4 players compete in the HOH competition for the first HOH of the summer. Jimmy has little luck throughout the entire time, as most people do not want to compete. But by the end, he ends up picking himself, Adrian, Ashley, and Vince to compete in the first competition. This HOH competition was the balancing comp from BB Reindeer games, where basically you had to balance these orbs onto this very floppy disc area. And once you balanced them correctly, you had to go press your dynamite stick thing. And if it held for 10 seconds, you'd become the first HOH. Vince and Adrian are the only ones kind of in the mix for this, and it ends with Vince becoming the first HOH of the summer. Then we get the shock. Vince comes back to the house. We find out that the BBAI Arena is returning for another season, except now it's called the BB Blockbuster, and Vince will have to nominate 3 people this week. And then the shock of the century happens, where the Queen, Rachel Riley, returns to the show and is going to be a house guest this summer. But that's not all because it, even though she is not the 17th house guest, because one of the 16 house guests is secretly the accomplice and has been helping the mastermind throughout the entire episode get things done. We end up finding out, and so if the accomplice is caught in episode two, then they will be immediately kicked out of the game. But if they are not caught, then they get to join the game and be a part of Big Brother this summer. So let's talk about episode two. I have a picture of Riley up because obviously Riley is the one everyone talks about as the accomplice. Also, Zay gets a few votes, and when the vote total comes in, it's 11 votes for Riley, 5 votes for Zay. And we get the reveal that Riley is not the accomplice, which means the accomplice gets to join the game. And then we end up finding out it was Amy. Amy was the accomplice. Um, and Amy actually doesn't have a bad episode this episode until, towards the end, um, where, she forms the mom squad with Rachel Riley. And yeah, she has a good episode until the end when, we'll get to what happens. But so then we learn about all the stuff she had to do, where she had to start the timer when she first moved in, which she was in the first moving group. She ended up having to use a button to steal the HOH relic, and then she had to pull a lever upstairs to let Rachel Riley in. And she ended up completing her tasks, went undetected, and stays in the game. We then get what is one of the most old school Big Brother storylines I think I've heard of in modern Big Brother, which is Showergate. So on night one, Vince finally gets his HOH bedroom, and Ashley, he basically is like, yeah, and if anyone wants to use my shower, I'm totally cool with it. And so Ashley decides that she wants to use Vince's shower, and it's super late in the night, and then she stays in the shower and takes a 2 hour shower. Um, originally we thought it was 90 minutes. It was 2 hours, and she ends up putting a massive target on her back because in week one of Big Brother, anybody you want to target usually will get you need to find some sort of reason to target people, and so they ended up using um that as a reason to target Ashley. Beyond this, we start to see some other relationships form. Um, besides this, but this is obviously a big plot point of the episode, so I definitely had to bring it up. We then get Vince then we also find out from Vince that because Rachel Riley entered late, um, the hotel management has said that she had to stay in the have not room, and that her stay for week one would be comped, and that her and the other have nots would be given safety week one. They end up doing a chain where 4 people besides Rachel, or 3 other people besides Rachel, would end up being have-nots for the week and safe for the week. Rachel ends up picking Will picks Zach, and Zach picks Ava, leading to Rachel, Will, Zach, and Ava being safe in week one of season 27. They'll be here next week. We then get to see the the have not room, and it's a big crime scene area. The beds look so uncomfortable, to be honest. Like the placements of the beds just look terrible. Because they're weird like cutouts and everything. But yeah, we see that, and Rachel, Will, Zach, and Ava are gonna get to enjoy that this week. Hopefully they are. Then we end up getting nomination talks. Um, Vince decides that because Zay is a potential accomplice, he's also just not been super apt to talk to him. That Zay will be one of his noms because of Showergate and other things. Ashley will be on one of his noms, and then he has to figure out the last one. Kelly says that she really trusts Vince and offers herself to go up as a pawn. However, by the end of the week, at nominations, Vince ends up deciding on Zay, Amy, and Ashley as his first nominations, giving a not very good nomination speech, talking about how I guess he's like Ashley's paranoid and all these things, and it just did not go well overall and made him, look like a dumb move. But thankfully, he did not put his Kelly up, which we'll talk about next episode, since everything with live feeds has been happening, and I know kind of what's going on. I will be back on Friday with another video talking about episodes 3 and the first Wednesday episode and the first eviction, as we will be down to 16. Very excited for that, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye.